Alrighty, I guess we'll get started now that it's 12:13. So thank you so much for coming to the BMT panel today, and thank you so much to our panelists. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about brand marketing team and then who our panelists are. So the brand marketing team is a senior year competition program that's composed of a select group of students who collaborate on an advertising campaign. It's a corporate sponsored assignment that gives students the real world experience to research and create advertising, marketing, media campaign to present at the National AAF conference. So to introduce our panelists, first we have Brenna, who is a senior majoring in arts and entertainment management with a minor in marketing. On the brand marketing team, she is the executive director of media, where she works to place the brand's message in front of the target audience through a paid strategy, owned media, and experiential tactics. Brenna has also been a part of the ad club since her freshman year at Pace and was the president last year. Marinella, who is a senior as well, studying advertising and integrated marketing communications with a minor in graphic design and business analytics. Her strong ambition and work ethic has allowed her to take on several leadership roles at Pace, as well as hands-on internships experiences at Gesture, Simmer, and Group M. On the brand marketing team, Marinella serves as the executive director of account planning and oversees research, consumer insights, and strategy. Stephen is a senior majoring in global marketing management on the brand marketing team. He is the executive creative director, where he's in charge of the execution as well as the plans book. And he was the VP last year on the ad club. Valerie is an advertising integrated marketing communications major with a minor in management. She's the chief operating officer on the brand marketing team, where she oversees the members and controls allocation of resources. And she is currently an intern at Big Idea Advertising. Lastly, we have Abby, who's a senior and is an integrated marketing communications major. And she is currently director of paid media on the brand marketing team. Prior to joining the team, she interned at 72 Capital Wealth Management and Engine, the agency, and she was also the secretary of Ad Club last year. I'm going to also pass it over to Dr. C if he has, because he has something to say.
Thank you. I'm not going to stay long because I want the candor and questions and answers to be thorough, and I want the team members that are here to feel comfortable. I think they would be even if I stayed, but I want them to just talk extemporaneously off the cuff about what their experience, which I know they will. These 5 students that are in front of you have been terrific in every sense of the word. They've been, that's why they're leaders. They were leaders not because Professor Nakin and I appointed them as leaders. They were voted in a secret ballot by their peers as being the people that were thought to be most appropriate to lead the team. There's a few other leaders that are not here today. They couldn't be because they're working in the plans book, but there's there's 14 other students besides these 5 who deserve a lot of credit and recognition for the hard work. And you'll see, I hope you'll see the fruits of this soon when we're able to share more publicly what they're doing with their campaign. It's really wonderful that all the work they've done. I had nothing else to say. I'm going to leave now and wish you all well. Anyone has a question for me later, shoot me an email. But good to see you all. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
And I'll leave too.
Thank you. Okay, so let's get started. So what did you know before joining the brand marketing team, and what do you know now? Anybody can go, or all of you can go.
I can start. So I think before brand marketing team, like I had taken advertising and promotions with Dr. C. I had taken like the normal marketing classes, but in all of those classes, it's more like conceptual ideas. Like you're just learning like the vocabulary and how things work, but you're not actually seeing them being done. And being on the team, you actually get to like put those things into action. So you're actually seeing what you learn in those concepts coming to life. So it's a much more hands-on and real experience than like just sitting in a classroom taking notes and learning about it. So I feel like now I'm confident to like actually use those concepts in the real world. So that's what I know now, is more like how to use those concepts. Yeah.
Great. Does anybody else want to go as well, who's on the panel?
I totally agree with Brenna. I mean, I learn by doing, so it's hard for me to like sit there and like take notes. I'm like, I don't really know what this is. So being able to be on BMT and actually apply the things that you learn has been extremely helpful for me. And I don't think I would know as much as I do now if I wasn't on the team.
I guess I can speak up on that too. I agree with what they both said. I don't think I realized how much teamwork oriented this team was. Professor Nankin likes to call this campaign an onion, as there are so many layers that unfold as each department completes their certain deliverables. That stuff is always changing, stuff is always being moved around, and that comes with depending on one another so much. We really are one as we work towards this common goal. And I think I really learned that teamwork is everything in marketing.
Great.
I would echo everything that all the team members have said. Only thing I would add is like this program really shows you how kind of like an agency works, which is not really something that you get in like regular marketing classes. You get a little bit of a taste with Professor Nankin's class and Dr. C's class with ad and promo, but really this is like a deep dive into like the agency work and how it works. So that's something that I learned throughout the experience.
I agree with what everyone just said.
Great. So can you tell us a little bit about what the interview process was like?
I can take that one. So, I mean, I was in ad club before I even like joined BMT or interviewed for it. So that was kind of a way for me to meet Dr. C and get to know him before I even thought about being on the team. So I recommend everyone do that because it's a good way to get to know them and to like have your name in their mind when they're thinking of people for next year's team. I also took ad and promo with Dr. C. So if you have the opportunity to do that, it's a hard class, but if you put in the work, he'll notice. And that's kind of how I ended up on the team. And they reach out to you and they, you know, ask you to interview. You interview with Dr. C and you interview with Nankin. It's a little scary, not gonna lie, but they're a fun time. So you do an interview with both of them, and then usually they get back to you after a couple weeks, after all the interviews are done, and they formally invite you to be on the team. And that's when you say yes or no, and then you're on the team. At least that's how it went for me. Might be a little different for someone else.
Yeah, for me, it was basically the same. Since I was in ad club since freshman year, they kind of knew as I was going along that I was interested in being the team when I did get to senior year. And everything that Abby said is exactly how it went for me. I would just say that like knowing Dr. C and Professor Nankin makes it so much easier and simpler to do these interviews. Like you already know what to expect with them. Like you know how the conversation is going to go. It's not as like intimidating when you already know them. So definitely like use ad club to get to know them better, so that if you do want to interview for the team, it'll like take a lot of pressure off of your shoulders.
I agree with Brenna. So I knew Dr. C because I took his class. So that interview was like piece of cake, just like catching up, what's up. I sit on his couch and we talk about like what's going on. But with Professor Nankin, I hadn't taken any of his classes yet, so it was a little bit nerve-wracking. So definitely getting to know them ahead of time helps, but it's also not the end of the world if you don't know them. I think if you just like be honest and show where your skill sets are best, it'll go fine. And have your resume for Professor Nankin. He will read through it.
Yeah, for me, it was very. You can go.
You go.
I was going to say, for me, it was a very similar process. I had taken classes with both Dr. C and Nankin. So they both knew me and they knew like how I worked and what I did. And I had mentioned that I was interested in being part of the brand marketing team. And then they formally invited me to interview for it. And my interview with Chigoris, I will say, was less nerve-wracking than my interview with Nankin when he literally went line through line on my resume. So Marinello was not kidding. He will read through it and he'll ask questions about placement of words that you didn't even think was an issue. But yeah.
Yeah, so I was never on Ad Club. I was actually part of AMA for 2 years. So I just took Nankin and Dr. C in the same semester, which was already an experience for itself. So they both met me through that. And then I separately interviewed around April because I didn't take them until last spring semester. And yeah, resume, definitely a little bit intense, but Dr. C is more of a conversation. Overall, they just want to hear that you're going to put the team first and you're going to give it your best when you're a part of it.
Great, thank you. Is the workload on BMT more comparable to a college course, or is it similar to an internship?
I can attest first. So I have different views, but I think an internship more or less because it's about what you put in, and no one's telling you you're working for a certain amount of hours. You're working like, oh, you have to do this from Tuesday from 3 to 5. None of that is said except for hour and a half classes twice a week. So it's really a matter of what you want to put into it, and however much time that takes you is however much time it's going to be. Of course, there's going to be like set meetings that may take within an hour to possibly 5 or 6 hours. But I would say it's more like an internship because there's no class where you can just finish at the end of it or finish your homework assignment, finish your project. It's kind of never ending. It's really all about time management. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with what Valerie had to say. For the people who don't know, this is technically a class that's 3 credits each semester. So it's both fall and spring semester. So you do have that set class time, but then as Val said, there's a lot of other work that goes into it. I would say the fall semester is a little bit easier in terms of the workload. And that's probably more equivalent to like 2 classes, I would say, in terms of like how much work you're really doing. But then we work all throughout winter break, really like starting the plans book. And then once you get into spring semester, it's kind of all hands on deck. So it's definitely a lot more like an internship where you're just doing work as much as you can, getting everything you need to get done. And all of us on the panel have like pretty big leadership positions. So we do have a little bit more work than some other team members, but like I said, it's all hands on deck. So there is a good amount of work that goes into it, regardless of what kind of position you have on the team.
I would echo all of what they said. I think it's more of like an intensive internship where it's like the bounds of working hours is really not 9 to 5 at all, and weekends is fair game. But yeah, you don't really have any tests or quizzes like that, but you have more like weekly presentations. So that's something to prepare for every week. And then, yeah, just like they said, it's kind of like endless meetings, and especially with Zoom, it's gotten a lot easier to meet with the teams, but definitely set, your healthy boundaries because it does end up being like hours on Zoom. But yeah, it's just really a balance that you have to set for yourself.
Yeah, both semesters are extremely different yet similar because in the fall, you're really working like it's very individual. Like you'll have set presentations like every Wednesday, and every week is like a new group project that's due. But like we've all been there where you're the only person doing the work in the group project. And this is the first time in my life where everyone's pitching in. Like if there's 5 people on a team, it's split 5 ways and we all meet up and we get it done. And then now in the spring semester, I think this year was a little earlier because this in December we finished earlier, but basically like we got into different departments and we started really showcasing all of our little niches, and we're getting all the plans booked together, which is now it's crunch time because it's due in a couple of days. So yeah.
Great. So would one of you like care to give us a summary of what the current project involves? If you're allowed to talk about it or not, I don't know.
Valerie, permission? I don't, what's the...
Okay, so yeah, I can kind of just go over like basics without getting too involved. So basically in the fall is kind of when we really research the brand, we really research the target that we're given, the problem, the opportunities. It's really just a lot of research and presentations every single week. And then at the end of the fall, we really should have our insight message and organizing idea at that time. And that's developed through the KPIs in the brief, that's developed through the objectives in the brief. So by that time, we kind of have the foundation to start breaking up into departments. Winter break, probably 3 days after the fall ends, is when you are assigned your department and your leadership role if you're given one. And that's when the departments start operating separately. By preference, we had leadership meetings once a week in the winter break just to stay in touch because there is no class. And this was a very long winter break. So 8 weeks of not really meeting as a team. I try to assemble everybody together once a week. And then the fall is what everybody just kind of already said. It's just working in your respective departments, but at the same time coming together to show everybody what you worked on individually. And it's really just crunch time, and whatever deliverables that the COO and the president usually create just should be completed weekly until you start seeing progress on the book. And then, like Stephen said, we should be not handing it in soon, but we should be finishing it soon. And we hand it in the 24th of March. So we then do the presentation at the end of April. So it really is the whole August to end of April.
Okay, great, thank you. And can you guys please explain your positions on BMT and like what your overall contribution is?
I'll start. So I'm the director of paid media. So I work under Brenna, actually. Love you, Brenna. So specifically, I work on the 2 paid media pages. So, and if anyone's taken media planning and buying, it's very similar. It's figuring out what platforms are we going to put our 30-second spot on? Are we going to use YouTube, Hulu, things like that? Are we going to do paid advertisements on social media? So basically making all those choices and then deciding, okay, how much money are we going to allocate to that? So it's a lot of like choosing the platform, figuring out what you want to do, budgeting a little bit, but it's very much media planning and buying. And that takes up 2 pages of our media section in the plans book. So that's what I'm responsible for.
Yeah, so I'm the executive director of media. So like Abby said, I oversee her for paid as well as earned and owned media. So we have a team of about like 9 people, I believe, now on the department. And so we're in charge of the entire media strategy. So like anywhere that this message is going out to the target, we're in charge of what we're doing, where we're doing it. So we're in charge of, like Abby said, all of the paid media, any experiential marketing, any events we're doing, branded entertainment. So I kind of have a hand in it all, trying to figure out what exactly is the best thing to do for all of those things and making sure that it's all cohesive throughout everything and that everything we're doing reaches the target and like really supports our organizing idea.
So I'm the executive creative director, and my job is basically taking all the information that we gathered, from August to December, and making all of the creative executions for it. And the biggest portion of it is going to be our commercial spots. So our 60-second spots, our 30s, our 15s, and possibly our 6s. And then also doing our print ads, any logos that Brenna or Marinella may need. And then in my department, we're also in charge of putting all the plans book pages together. Marinella's department and Brenna's department do a really good job of getting all the data for us. But for the judges, it needs to look really pretty. So I have 2 people who are under me, really good, Emma and Liz, and they've been putting the plans book together, and it looks really pretty.
I'll go next. So I'm executive director of account planning. So basically what AP does is they're responsible for the first four pages of the plans book, which Professor Nankin kind of mentions is the section that like walks the client down the garden path and then into the creative brief. So at that point, the client should be thinking, oh, of course, that makes sense as to why the creative brief is the creative brief. But basically, we do a lot of research, both primary and secondary. So a lot of interviews, lots of Simmons MRI tabs to run, reading lots and lots of journal articles, things like that. But just to get to know like our target and really uncover what motivates them and try to see how we can speak to them with a campaign.
So I'm the Chief Operating Officer. So essentially I'm in charge of the people and the resources on this team, which go hand in hand with one another. So I'm in charge of the budget for our team. I'm in charge of the research-based allocations that I give to AP. And essentially I can move people around from department to department. So once AP was finished after winter break, some people broke off and I assigned them to different departments, and then we create new departments. So I'm really in charge of overlooking people's strengths and weaknesses and seeing where they can be best suited, as well as giving them individual tasks per se. I'm also in charge of just setting the schedule for the semester/winter break. Me and the president go to all of the meetings, so we really see all the moving parts that everybody else does, and we implement those deliverables that should be completed and given to one another. And then after they're completed, we give them to the professors, and we have separate meetings with them. So I'm kind of the overseer, and again, I hand the content to the president, and we work like hands in a glove essentially. So that is my role.
Great, thank you. What are a few of the biggest challenges and benefits of being on the brand marketing team?
I would say that one of the biggest challenges is mentally. It is a lot of work, and it's not like a bad amount of work. It's just you will find yourself working harder than you ever had before, and you'll be more passionate because like in August, it's like, oh yeah, this is the case, etc. But like by the time December hits, you've been working on this for 5 months and you're really passionate about it. And now that we're in March and we're seeing all the fruit of our labor come together, that's really the benefit because like production is this Saturday for us. And this will be the first time that we're going to see all the research that we've done and everything just come to life. And then the plans book will be due the following week. And we'll see that everything that we've done was worth it. And our submission into the competition will probably be one of the best ones you've had in a while.
Brenna, do you want to go?
Yeah, sure. So this is kind of a benefit and a challenge, but as Professor Nankin and Dr. C will say, like in your interview, you really go from like a student to a professional while you're on the team. And I think that the learning curve of that happening throughout the process of being on the team is definitely a challenge. Like Stephen was saying, like it does become a lot of work and you are pushing yourself to a place that you never thought you were able to. But once you realize that you are capable of doing all of these things, like you are capable of making a campaign that honestly, when we compare it to some of the campaigns that our brand has running currently, like I would say our campaign is better than some of what they're doing. So it's like knowing that as students, we're ready to like go into the workforce because of all of this work that we've been doing, like makes all of those challenges seem worth it. And like I feel ready to like get a job and like actually be a working adult. So both benefits and challenges.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say as well. For me, it's definitely time management, just taking an internship as well as other credits in this team. It's a lot, but I will say that the benefits far outweigh the negatives because I don't think I can gain this experience from any internship. When you're an intern, you're an observer, you're a helper, you're an assistant. On this team, you are in the agency, so you see every moving part that you will never see as an intern. And like Brenna said, I I feel so much more confident now entering the work world, just knowing what I know, and you really will become a marketing professional at the end of it.
Did anybody else want to go? Great. So what qualities do you think brand marketing team members possess that will better prepare them for being in the working world over other students?
I'll take this one. There's a couple of them. One of them is like being professional, like Brenna was saying, like by the end of this, like you really do learn how to like be professional in meetings, be professional in your communications with other people, and like you feel like you kind of have a mini job, I guess. So it's like you do learn a lot about how to be professional and like how to manage people's time, how to manage their talents. So that's really important. Another one is I feel like we all become very good problem solvers because Nankin and Chagoris aren't at all of our meetings. So it's like you learn how to fix things yourself and how to address things yourself. And I think that's really important. Like moving forward into the working world, it's like you can be a self-starter and like you can fix problems and feel confident in your ability to do so. So I think we've all really learned that as we are basically doing this not by ourselves. Like Nankin and Chagoris are guiding us through this, but we do a lot of the work ourselves. So that's really important.
I'll go. I think that going off of what Abby said, learning how to articulate yourself and explain to someone else what it is you want to do, why you want to do it, how you're going to do it has helped so much because like Abby said, Professor Nankin and Dr. C aren't in all of our meetings. So they don't know exactly what we're planning on doing. And when they do come to our meetings, we have to explain to them all of what we've decided we want to do and why it's a good idea, why we should move forward with it. And especially when they don't always know what's new and cool and exciting, you really have to find new ways to explain yourself, which I think going into the work world and knowing like I will be able to defend exactly what I want and explain to my bosses, like, this is why this is a good idea. Like, it makes me so much more confident knowing that I can articulate myself and really be confident in what I'm pitching to someone.
Yeah, I agree with what they both just said. I definitely think, like I said before, you need to be a team player. This is not an individualized project. You are never going to be by yourself. You really have to know how to work well with others and take feedback. Learn not only how to manage, but how to be managed under someone else. So it's super important. And that way too, you are open-minded and you can learn from other people on this team. I've learned so much just from these 4 people. So it's definitely not only a learning experience from the professors, but from your teammates.
Great. And lastly, what are your biggest takeaways from the experience as a whole?
I can start. I would say one of the biggest things I took away from the experience, or I'm still taking away from the experience, is learning how to take criticism. Like sometimes you'll feel a little bit defeated because mistakes and holes in your work will be brought out by anyone and everyone. But you kind of learn to just not like shut down, because if you do, that just doesn't help and it doesn't progress the work further. So you kind of learn how to listen and really work to be better and solve the problems on your own, like Abby said. And that's really important in the working world because you have to have tough skin, especially in marketing. So.
To echo off of what Marinella said, as cliche as it sounds, the biggest takeaway is that hard work pays off because, like Marinella said, especially in the first semester, we would present work and people would be like, oh, well, what about this? And what about that? And they would just, poke holes right through whatever you presented. And you would just grow thick skin and try again next week and hope that you did good. And then at the end of the day, if you did the hard work, you were bulletproof.
love that term, bulletproof, of course. You get so much stronger from being on this team. For me, especially just leadership qualities, I don't think I'll ever have the opportunity to manage a group of 19 people until I'm older. So this was an amazing opportunity for me. And just learning the ins and outs of a campaign. Like, it's crazy how much you like take in through these months. And like I said, when you become a professional, and that's through not only the professor's work, but your hard work. So it definitely is self-rewarding. And I encourage everybody to be a part of it.
Like Val said, with the like leadership, like it is a unique opportunity to actually be a leader. And I've learned so much better how to delegate to people, because I, before this, had a lot of trouble trusting people with work. Like, I was someone who would always do it for myself, but just knowing that like, if I trust someone and tell them what needs to be done, and they will get it done. I don't need to worry, and I don't have to do everything for everyone. Like, learning how to delegate and just trusting like that people will do the work has been so helpful for me.
Okay, I guess we can open it up to everybody else. Does anybody have any questions for our panelists?
Yeah, I have a question. First of all, thank you guys for coming and talking to us. This was really helpful. And just wondering like how big the workload is during winter break.
I can start with that one. If you're in AP, it's definitely more intense. Like, that's where it really starts, because AP is the first 4 pages, and that's kind of like the strategy. Like, everyone kind of pulls from that. So if you are in AP, buckle down.
Alternatively, if you're in creative, it's smooth sailing up until March. We do work, all of winter break, but we meet, twice a week or 3 times a week, however we see fit within the team. And then getting closer to the end of the semester, we have more and more to do with production and the plans book, etc.
For media, I mean, at the beginning, it's a little bit like during winter break, it starts off all right. Because we need a lot of account planning research to really know what the target likes and wants before we start actually deciding where things are placed. But as time goes on, especially like end of winter break, we had a lot of deadlines for like our paid media strategy had to be entirely finished by the end of that break. So we did have all hands on deck, but like we met probably 3 times a week for a couple hours during break. So it wasn't anything like super crazy, but we were meeting quite frequently.
For me and the president, we have to be at every single meeting. So for what every single person just said, I am a part of. But I don't want to put it in a negative light. I look at it like, work hard now to get that job that someone else won't get because they didn't have this experience. So it's a lot of work. You don't get a break, but it will be rewarding when you get a job in real life.
I will just, since Val mentioned that, I know people who've been on the team in the past who got their full-time job because they showed their brand marketing team plans book to the employers during their interviews. So it's definitely like you have a full plans book to show employers, hey, look at this full marketing campaign that I was able to do like on my own. So it's definitely like, even though it is a lot of work, like you're coming out with something that like you can physically show employers that like will help you to land that job. So I think that the work is worth it.
I have another question. Since you all mentioned jobs and internships and everything, how is your job search going? Are you guys finding success? Are you having any luck finding a job in this terrible climate? How's it going for you guys?
I mean, at least for me, it's still a little early. I just started applying to jobs really since I knew that a lot of places wouldn't hire me until like beginning of March would be the first time that people would like actually think to hire someone who isn't graduating until May. So we'll see what happens. I've been doing a lot of freelance work, and I think that a lot of companies have been doing that a lot more. So up until I can find a job, that's probably what I'll do. But I think the job landscape seems to be a little bit better than it was, say, last year for graduates. So I'm hopeful. And Dr. C is very helpful. Like even yesterday, he called me just to be like, hey, how's the job search going? Like, do you need any help? So you have a lot more support than just being a normal student. That's also nice.
Are you guys able to say like what company you guys are working for or like working on the campaign for, or no?
Yeah, we're working for Tinder. But that is all I can say.
Hi, I have a question. Also, thank you for all the information. It was really interesting hearing about the team. But I know you guys mentioned that a lot of this is like working for an agency and you see a lot of the moving parts, like you kept saying. Would you say that this experience would make you want to pursue work in an agency, or has you more interested in that? Or would you maybe be more interested in working for something other than an agency following this experience, of course?
I could speak on that. So I actually interned for Group M, which is a pretty big agency, and I just had an informational interview with someone who worked in consumer insights for Mindshare, which is one of the companies under Group M. And she kind of explained what like an associate role was, and it was very, very much similar to what I'm doing right now with account planning and strategy. So seeing the parallels between that and seeing how much I loved account planning at BMT definitely made me a lot more interested and excited about the opportunities at an agency. I got to kind of see all the different parts of how an agency works at Group M during my externship last summer. And I would definitely say your experience on BMT would definitely help out because you kind of get that first taste of what an agency life looks like. And I personally think it's exciting. But yeah, that's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, I would say that you also need to keep in mind that no matter where you end up, there's always going to be so many moving parts throughout whatever department you end up, especially in the marketing one. There's account planning, there's media, there's creative, content marketing, and I literally could go on and on. Personally, for me, I've held a full-time job throughout my entire experience in BMT, so I've been a little different, Alexandra, but I've seen both the agency side and the client side while working on BMT, and I can attest that it's very similar on both ends. It's just, are you working for your own brand or are you working for someone else's?
Does anybody else have any questions? All right, thank you so much to our panelists for joining us today and talking to us about brand marketing team. It's definitely very helpful. And our next event is going to be Careers in Marketing, which is going to be taking place on March 17th. So we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.